Vortigern and Clishery Comrie, and I welcome you all back to Wales. Now today me and Amy are taking a stroll through something that I would describe as a Celtic rainforest. The land is thick with different sorts of moss from sphagnum to star, scattering amongst the ruins that are in this location of this thick old woodland. The trees here are not typical pines that I normally explore through in the Barrens. They tend to be oak and ash. And it's the sort of forest I could imagine the ancient kings of Gwynedd used to hunt through to claim their stags and their boars to bring back to their courtships down near Bethgelert and the other palaces they had within these mountains. But the reason why we are walking through this ancient landscape, this woodland, is to lead up to a hill called Dinas Emrys. Now Dinas Emrys has a legend that is tied to it for years and years and years. The first time I heard about this story was when I was very little. I must have been 6, and I was told to it by my nanny. She told me about 2 dragons, a warlord called Vortigern, and a young man who soon become known as Merlin. So as we walk through this ancient woodlands, we're going to follow in the tales of the ancient kings of old, as well as the legends of 2 dragons that are tied and imprinted upon the rocks of this land. Now this story is set in the 5th century. And remember, legends are misty glows of history. So 100% accuracy is probably not imprinted on the story itself. But the story goes that in the 5th century, Vortigern was being troubled, as many other ancient kings of Britain at the time, by the invading Anglo-Saxons. It is instead in the tales of old that the Saxons were burning, raping and pillaging over the ancient lands of the Britons. When the Romans left, there was no standing army to withstand this oncoming onslaught. So Vortigern and many of the ancient kings started to build fortresses to keep away the oncoming hordes and the fire that they brought with them. One location that is tied to this legend is this hill behind me. Now that is Dinas Emrys, now covered in forest and very much being battered by the Welsh weather. But this location is where it's said that he was ordered to build a strong stone tower with a covered of ramparts around it to keep any warring party away. And it was wise to do so. In the daylight you can see mountains on that side, and just above me over here that heads towards the river itself. It was a very narrow valley, and with a strong fortress in the middle, it would keep away any sort of hostile parties that would come through. But the tricky thing was, every single time the masons came down the hill to have an evening rest, a great thunderous noise would erupt them all from their sleep. When the sun rose, the tower that was being built crumbled to the bottom of the hill. As you can imagine, Vortigern was feeling the pressure. Fire was burning in the east, as well as civil wars and disputes happening within his own kingdom. Vortigern losing money, time and men to this fortress in order to keep his kingdom safe. His mind started to become evil. He started to talk to his magicians, sort of druid-like people that recommended that he would sacrifice people upon the rock to heal whatever evil spirit that was causing its ill. Unfortunately, the legend tells us is that many young children were found and murdered. And the reason why they were chosen is because his magicians, his wise men said that you needed to spill the blood of a child that had a mother of this earth, but a father from the other world, the world of Arun, fairy folk and creatures of magic. For every young child that was sacrificed upon this mountain, that tower still crumbled. For every tear that fell, no foundation was laid. Vortigern's fury started to reach towards his wise men. It was even said in the darkness of the night during a dispute with one of his wise men, he murdered him with his own hands. And his blood still did not tame the evil spirits below. The amount of children being sacrificed was definitely putting a popularity vote against him. His men started to soon believe that he was becoming mad. But one day, his hunting parties brought a child back from Dyfed, South Wales, who was known to be a creature of magic, a young child that was able to possess some sort of supernatural ability, which made him famous amongst his own people. He was brought towards Vortigern, and for his wise men's sake, as well as his own, this child's blood better settle the spirits that haunted them below this hill. This young child was brought to the feet of Vortigern, shoved quite brutally down. Already battered and bloodied, he looked up towards Vortigern, and Vortigern showed him very little pity. It was as if he became numb with the amount of tears and blood that he already seen spilt upon this mountain. He ordered this young boy to be taken to the execution block, amongst the rock, probably much the same behind me. And as the crowd awaited for the axeman to drop the axe upon the neck of that young child, the whole court was lying in silence. In fact, you could hear the cowering wise men lingering, hoping that his blood would tame whatever evil lurks among these rocks. But as Vortigern ordered the final blow, the young child spoke out, and his voice was able to grip the attention of everybody in the court, including Vortigern himself. He expressed that there was no evil amongst this mountain, no evil spirit that was cursing his mountain kill, and the fate of his castle was not being dictated by the evil spirits that lurk within these mountains, but by two sleeping beasts that come from the other world, the world of Arun. This young child was able to convince not only the court but Vortigern himself to go beneath the mountain. He expressed that if you dig deep enough, you will come across an ancient pool, and if you drain it, I swear to you, you will see the culprit of why your tower falls. It is true to say the least that this child must have had some sort of supernatural ability, because no plea of any other child is able to tame Vortigern's bloodlust and his ability to build this fortress. But as his men dug deeper, they did come across a pool, and as he drained it into the lake below, they saw two sleeping dragons, one white and one red. These two dragons awoke from their slumber and turned on each other with aggressive fashion. The furious fighting between these two dragons put fear into Vortigern himself. But as the fighting went on, the red dragon prevailed and the white flew off to the east. As the court watched this, prophecies were being written that the white dragon represented the Saxons of the east and the red dragon represented the native Britons, and that one day, despite all the fire and fury being delivered from the invaders, that the red dragon, the Britons, will have its day and be able to keep their sense of independence. This lad would turn into legend and be known as Merlin, the wizard, the wise man that gave Arthur counsel in his times of darkness. But this is just a legend. But legends run with truth sometimes, because where I am crouching down now to keep the Snowdon weather off me is the remains of one strong medieval tower. You can see where Amy's crouched in the middle. Corner to corner to corner to corner. These are the remains of a foundation of a medieval fortress. And if I rise up to here, you can see how it's now being reclaimed by all the nature around me. If you look further down, you can also see the other accompanying fortifications that were led to the defensive system of this fortress. And if you look straight down to the valley, you can see the lakes and the rest of the mountains of Snowdonia, and why Vortigern most likely wanted to build a fortress here to keep the rest of his kingdom safe. But like I say, this is only a legend and embellished by my own and by many before me. But the fact of the matter is there is a medieval fortress here, but it was most likely built by Llewellyn the Great, who built many other fortresses around Wales to build a sense of defensive structure against the progressively powerful English across the border, but also to defend himself against rival factions within Wales itself. It is an amazing location. You walk through stunning woodland that I describe as a Celtic rainforest, and you're surrounded by the beautiful backdrop of Eyri herself. And further down the road, you'll get to a place called Beth Gerrit that holds its own stories of folklore, not just about the great dog Gellet, but about fairies and the people of Arun. So I'll leave you with this. Come walking and come and enjoy these stories. Keep them alive, but leave the land to how it is. We've seen so much rubbish on the way here, and I do recommend and I do promote that you take your stuff back with you and keep this land looking as dramatic as it has always been.